Hey team, how you doing? Welcome to the Kim Constable podcast. Nobody cares, work harder. I'm actually live here on Instagram. Not on Instagram. I'm live here on YouTube. This is the first time I've ever actually recorded a podcast live, but I thought that I record these podcasts, well, usually weekly at the minute, but I never actually just hit live, go live on YouTube. And I thought, well, why not go live on YouTube, record the podcast live? If there's any questions that come up, I have my computer here so I can answer any questions for anybody who jumps on live. And I think I'll do these live every week from now on, and I'll set up a specific time when I'll go live, and you guys can join in and ask questions directly during the podcast interview. Isn't that or not interview? God, I can't even speak today. Directly during the podcast recording. It's actually so cool to be able to do new stuff like this. I've been changing up a lot of stuff in the business and the way I do things in the business, simply because I do believe that because of AI, the way that the world is working and the way the online world is working is actually changing quite a bit. In terms of, everybody is doing highly curated videos now. Everyone is using AI. Everyone's using ChatGPT. It's very hard these days to find out or to figure out what is real and what is not, because so much of what is written by ChatGPT. Here's actually just a little side note. Here's how you can tell if something's been written by ChatGPT. First of all, there's loads of emojis, or emoji. Maybe that's the plural of emoji is emoji. ChatGPT loves using emoji. So if something has a lot of emoji in it, it's been written by ChatGPT. Also, long dashes in the middle of the words. So long dashes are not something anyone would normally write in a sentence or in a paragraph or whatever, but ChatGPT always uses these long dashes. So anytime I use ChatGPT to write anything, I just go ahead and delete all the long dashes afterwards, because I don't want to sound robotic like everybody else. And also, the reason why I've started doing a lot more lives and a lot more podcast recordings and, these live YouTube recordings is simply because I think that in a world where we are increasingly on social media, we are increasingly scrolling on our phones, we are seeing so much AI stuff coming out now. I think sometimes it's hard to know what's real and what's not. And I do think that the world is going to make a huge shift back to wanting real people, real content, wanting to see more live style training and live interviews and podcasts and Q&As and that kind of stuff, because at least then you know that it is real. I am actually sitting here in front of you recording this, and you can interact and know that I am not an AI bot. Although in future, I actually think that AI bots might even be able to do this kind of work for us. Who knows? So anyway, today I wanted to just give you guys a general update on what's been happening in my own personal journey. A lot of you know that I have been working with peptides recently. I have been microdosing Ozempic, GLP-1s. I have been not microdosing, actually dosing NAD, which is nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. It stands for. It's a massively regenerating peptide, which is basically anti-aging on a cellular level. I've also been taking BPC 157, which is body protection compound 157, which is amazing for tissue repair, tendon repair, healing repair. And I've also been microdosing the GLP-1s, specifically Ozempic, for inflammation. But there's been a whole host of amazing things have happened ever since I started doing that as well, which I wanted to talk about a little bit today too. And I also wanted to talk about why I have switched to predominantly dumbbell workouts, although I am still training in the gym. And I wanted to update you on kind of my movement on that and what is the fastest way to build muscle as a menopausal or a woman over 40, or just a woman in general, because definitely my training philosophy has changed quite a lot in the last couple of years. Not that it's changed in that I don't believe in high intensity training anymore. I don't believe in training to failure. I absolutely do. But it's more that it's changed in that I've recognized that there's a different and a better way to train for me, which is, helping my body. So a little bit of housekeeping before we dive into the content. I haven't anything planned today. I have no notes at all. I'm literally just going to talk. So one of the things I wanted to tell you is I have started to move quite a bit away from Instagram. I think I'm going to be using TikTok a lot more. So if you don't follow me on TikTok, I would absolutely love it if you would go and follow me there, because Instagram is full of haters. So I have a lot of of people, especially here in Northern Ireland. It's kind of the tall poppy syndrome. People want to see you do well, but not too well. I have a lot of people here in Northern Ireland who genuinely seem to hate me and want to take me down. And so they follow me religiously on Instagram specifically, and then they look for anything that they can report. I actually think they just report all of my posts routinely, and Instagram is censoring me an enormous amount. I have to be very careful about what I post because simply these haters and these trolls are just taking great joy in reporting the content, which honestly doesn't bother me. I don't care. It doesn't affect my Instagram account, but it does mean that I just have to be a little more careful with what I post, a little more thoughtful, which is fine. It's always good to be more thoughtful. But I am enjoying TikTok a lot more. And I just think that Instagram censoring is just on another level, and I really, I'm happy to get away from it. So why am I telling you this? Because if you don't follow me on TikTok, you should. It's Kim Constable Sculpted, or no, I think it's the Sculpted Vegan actually is my TikTok name. I don't know, I change it sometimes just depending on how I'm feeling. So the Sculpted Vegan, or Kim Constable if you look for me on TikTok. I'm telling you this because on TikTok I've started going live in the mornings. So I go live and I record dumbbell workouts live, and I this morning went live and did some cooking in the kitchen, showed making my breakfast, answered some questions, went into my gym, showed everyone around my gym. And so if you want kind of more Kim, or you just want to see behind the scenes of what's happening in my life, definitely follow me on TikTok, because I'm going to be going live a lot more on TikTok and sharing a lot more of my life on there. So hopefully I will see you guys on TikTok. So let's start with the training aspect in this podcast. So many of you will know that for years and years and years, all I did was high intensity training. And high intensity training is not high intensity interval training. It's high intensity training, which is completely different. So basically what it means is you do 3 to 4 sets of an exercise, of a particular exercise, but the last set that you perform is to failure. So you go to positive muscle failure, where you cannot perform another rep with good form. And then if you have a spotter, you go beyond failure. So you get a little bit of a spot on your final reps so that you can push beyond what you're currently capable of doing, which is what stimulates growth. Or if you don't have a spotter, then you do drop sets or pause sets. So you basically do say 10 reps of something at 10 kilos, if that is your highest weight, and then you would set it down. You would do some more reps at 7.5, set those down, some more reps at 5.5, just to burn out the muscle and make it work harder than it can work. So for years, that was how I trained. For years, I trained in the gym with, well, by myself, but also mostly with my trainer, Mark Getty, who is one of the world's most prolific bodybuilders, who owns a gym here in Belfast. And the story of how I started training that way is actually quite funny. I started training in 2016 it was. I started training because I looked at my glutes one day in the mirror and I realized that they had become small and saggy and wrinkly, and they didn't have any fat holding them up because I was really quite lean from teaching loads of yoga, and they didn't have any muscle in them, because whenever you're teaching yoga, you certainly do not build a lovely big set of glutes. You get a very strong glute medius, which is the muscle at the top of the glutes, but you don't get a lovely full and strong glute maximus. And actually, for years, I had suffered with back pain, and I didn't know the two of them were related, but they are related. A lot of people don't know that whenever you have weak glutes, your lower back picks up a lot of the slack. So if you are bending down, picking things up, bending over, moving about your daily life, and if you go to lift something heavy, then you can get a lot of lower back pain, because your lower back picks up the weight that the glutes should be picking up. Many women, when they start squatting, and this was absolutely me in the beginning, when I first started squatting with a barbell, I was riddled with back pain for days afterwards. And it was just like a real ache in my lower back. And what I realized was it was because my glutes weren't strong. So whenever you have really strong glutes, your glutes pick up the load whenever you bend over, whenever you squat down. Whenever we're kids, we squat constantly. Whenever, if you live in more primitive countries, you will find that they don't, sit on chairs, they sit on the ground. So, and they're constantly squatting down, washing things, prepping food. So human beings were designed to squat. We were designed to live in a squat position 80% of the time. Okay. Getting down and up and down and up and bending down and picking things up. We weren't supposed to sit on chairs. Were the worst invention of mankind. Very comfortable to sit on, but literally the worst invention for mankind, because they stopped our hips being stretched. They stopped our glutes being worked. Just the action of moving your body up and down actually keeps your glutes strong and keeps your hips open. But because we sit in chairs, we get into a very shortened position. And so the position that I'm sitting in now is not a very lengthened muscled position. If I was squatting down, then my tendons, my ligaments, and my muscles would be stretched over my knees, in my feet, and in my hips and in my glutes. And so that is what keeps your body healthy. It's living your life in that squat position, but many of us don't do it. And so most of, I would say, us don't do it. So our glutes become very turned off and very weak, and our lower back picks up the slack. And I did not have strong glutes whenever I was a yoga teacher. I had a very strong glute med, but I didn't have strong glute maximus. And I looked at my glutes in the mirror one day, and I was wearing a thong and a sports bra, and I'd walked into my yoga room. I had a yoga studio at home, walked in there to get something out of the drawer, and turned to look at my glutes in the mirror and was like, oh my God, these glutes are terrible. I just need to sort these glutes out. So that was when I started in the gym, and I downloaded a gym program. It was one by Emily Skye, and it was a great program, but I was convinced that after 4 weeks of doing this program, I would look like Emily Skye. And of course, I did not look like Emily Skye after 4 weeks. I was very mistaken, thinking that I could change my body in 4 weeks, but it did ignite a real love of bodybuilding in me. And so, what would happen is I would go to the gym 4 or 5 days a week, and my upper body started to change quite significantly because I was building a lot of muscle. Your upper body will always build muscle faster than your lower body. And I was doing all of the things that I knew to do. I was squatting as heavy as I felt comfortable. I mean, it's really scary in the beginning, squatting with a free bar. It's if you're not sure if you go back down that you're going to get back up again. It takes a lot of consistency over time for you to become comfortable with squatting. So I would go into the gym and I would follow this program, and I was squatting, and I was, doing all of the deadlifting and the leg extensions and the glute bridges and all of the stuff that Emily Skye had taught in this program. But I really wasn't seeing a significant difference to my lower body. And I kept flexing my quads in the mirror and thinking, oh, do I have more quad? Do I have more teardrop? No, didn't have any of those things. So I kept working and kept working, kept working. And then I kind of got more serious about my training. And I started seeing these women who had these gorgeous big quads. And I was like, I really want to have really big quads and really big glutes. So I found a trainer online, and I went to him and I said, I want to do a bikini competition. Can you help me? And he said, absolutely, 100%. I train bikini athletes. So, he said, you'll need to come and train about 4 times a week if you want to make any discernible difference in your body. I was like, 4 times a week. Great. So I went to train with him, and we did work pretty hard, but I just trusted his methods. I trusted what he was teaching me. And, I was working and I was glute bridging and I was squatting and I was doing different things. And I trained with him for a year. I stood on stage as a bikini athlete. I thought after a year, my body was going to be completely different than it was. I had built some muscle, but I really just didn't have these lovely, big, strong legs that I thought that I would have. And after about a year of training with him, I then trained a year by myself. And I would go online and I would look up, I would say, like, who are the muscliest people in the world? And I would go on to different websites and I would download programs by Ronnie Coleman and Jay Cutler and Dorian Yates, like these massive bodybuilders. And I would download their programs and I would think, well, they clearly know how to build a lot of muscle. So if I just follow their programs, then I too am going to be able to build a lot of muscle. So I started doing these programs by myself, and I genuinely was lifting as heavy as I could. I thought I was going pretty heavy. It was leg pressing, squatting. I was training in David Lloyd's gym. So actually, David Lloyd's really does not have in Belfast here, doesn't have a lot of equipment. We call it like the middle class yummy mummy gym. So and even to this day, the only leg equipment they have is one leg press machine. I think they put in a glute drive recently. So they have a glute drive machine, one leg press, and the rest of it, and they have a Smith machine, and the rest of it is all just free bars, right? There's no decent leg machines. So I then after a year of training by myself, I did another bikini competition. And the same trainer who had trained me for the first year, then did my prep he designed my diet and did my prep and my check ins for the next show. And I got really, really, really lean. Like I was down to single digit body fat percentages. I had veins running all over my abs. I had striations and veins all over my chest. But still, my legs and my glutes really weren't shredded. And they really hadn't grown that much, despite me putting in an inordinate amount of effort into leg day and following all these different exercises. I found some guy called the Quad Guy, and I followed his program for about 3 months until it nearly killed me, because you were literally training quads every single day, which, by the way, is an absolute no-no, because your muscles need time to recover, and if you're not giving them time to recover, you're actually going to hurt your growth, not help it. So then I went away to England to do Miami Pro, which is a bodybuilding show, and it was in London. And so I had a friend at the time who I had been going to for posing lessons, and her name was Emma Quinn. And Emma's a lovely girl, absolutely lovely, and has a cracking body. And I remember I was at my show, she was about 8 weeks out from her show. And we were staying in a hotel together, and she said to me in the morning, right, strip off and let me have a look at you, and we'll see, because bodybuilding shows is all about manipulation of calories and salt and water. You dehydrate for a week, and then you carb load the day before and have a glass of wine the night before to dehydrate you further. Different techniques that you use in bodybuilding to help to dehydrate you more for the day, and then you carb load and pump up your muscles on the day. And so Emma she was in the hotel room with me, and she said to me, right, strip off your clothes and let me have a look at you. So I stripped down into my underwear and did a couple of turns. She was like, yep, looking good. Yep, glutes are tight. Yep, whatever. And I was like, do you know what, Emma? I was like, I really just want big legs. I said, it's so frustrating. I have worked so hard for the last year. I've been trying to grow my quads, trying to grow my glutes, but specifically my quads, and they're just not growing the way that I would want them to. And she said, well, you're probably just not training correctly or not training them hard enough. I said, I'm training really, really hard. So she said, well, she said, do you want quads like these? And she pulled down her tracksuit pants that she was wearing and dropped them down to her ankles and flexed her quads. And I was like, like my jaw hit the floor. Now, Emma, in fairness, is blessed with a good set of quads and low body fat. Okay. She would be naturally very low body fat anyway. So she doesn't carry a lot of weight in that area. But she showed me her quads, and they were like two massive, big, long lemons sitting on the fronts of her legs. Like they had like lines and striations, and they were huge, and her legs looked so shapely and so gorgeous, and her glutes were so defined and so lovely. And I said to her, how do you have quads like that? And she said, easy, 2 words, Mark Getty. And I went, Mark Getty? Who's Mark Getty? She said, my trainer. And I said, who is this guy? So she pulls out this picture. She goes, here he is here. She pulls out his Instagram. She shows me his Instagram. And there was a picture of Mark, very ripped just before a show, standing beside a normal bloke. And Mark looks like a monster compared to him. He's like, shaking hand of this guy. And this guy, who's a bodybuilder, looks absolutely tiny compared to Mark. And I was like, who is this guy? She said, this is Mark Getty. He's like a bodybuilder. He trains me. So I said, do you think he would train me? And she went, yeah, 100%. I said, right, take me to your trainer. So we got back to Belfast. I ended up coming first in one of my classes. I think I did tell a lie, I did 2 classes. I came second and third in the 2 classes in that show. Massive classes. There was like, I think 45 women in one of the classes. So did really well. I was disgusted I didn't win. That was okay. Came back to Belfast, did another show a week later, and won that one a week later. So anyway, got back to Belfast and was between shows. Had another show a week later, which is or 2 weeks later it was. Whenever you're in bodybuilding, right, it's very, very hard to do 2 shows 2 weeks apart, because you have to, after your show, you just want to eat and you just want to, start living normally again, but you have to do another 2 weeks of dieting and another water drop and whatever. But I decided I was in good condition. I may as well go and do this other show. So I went to see Mark, got back from England I think we flew back on the Monday, and I went to see Mark on the Tuesday. So I went in and I sat down with Mark in the gym and I said to him, I just wanted to go and have a meeting with him, first of all. And I said, I just want to have a meeting with you because I just want to make sure that, I didn't wanted to make sure that he knew what he was talking about. Right. So I went in and sat down and I said, and I thought Mark would like pull out a questionnaire and ask me all these questions. I thought he'd be like, okay, so tell me what you've been doing and tell me what you want to achieve and what are your goals. And no, Mark wasn't like that at all. Mark was sitting eating, right? Eating his breakfast, eating his oatmeal. And he took up like so much space. I'd never seen a man so big. He was so wide, he took up so much space, and he was sitting like hoofing his porridge into him. And I went in, I was like, oh, hi, I'm Kim. And I sat down, and Mark and I just chatted like we'd known each other for years. And he really didn't ask me any questions at all about bodybuilding. So I was like, about after half an hour, I thought, okay, I don't want to waste any more of this guy's time. So I said, Mark, do you think you'll be able to train me? And he said, well, what do you want? And I said, honestly, I just want really big legs. And he was like, well, that's easy. And I was like, well, no, Mark, you don't understand. It's not so easy because like I've been trying to get really big legs for years. And he said, no, it's easy. And he said, show me your training program that you've been doing. So I pulled out the training program that my previous trainer had given me that I had been doing. And Mark looked at it and he went, you're fucking kidding me, right? And I went, no, why? And he said, you've been doing this every day. And I said, yeah. He goes, how long have you been in the gym? And I said, oh, about 2 hours. He was like, you've been in the gym 2 hours, 5 days a week or 6 days a week. This program was doing this. And I said, yeah. And he goes, yeah, you're training far too hard. No wonder your legs haven't grown. So this was completely like, this was an mind blowing to me because I thought, well, surely if you go to the gym more, you're going to build muscle faster, right? No. So Mark said, come and train with me tomorrow. We'll train legs and we'll be fine. I'll show you. I was like, okay. So showed up the next day to train legs and Mark, um, was it then or was it after my show? No, tell a lie. I didn't go to train with Mark until after my show because I had another show a week later. So he said, come back after your show and we'll train legs. So I went in after my show and Mark said, right, we'll start with some, leg extension. So I sat down the leg extension and moved it. And I said, Mark, that's quite light. He was like, don't worry, it'll be fine. It'll get heavier. So anyway, I started to move my legs with 1 set, 2 sets, 3 sets. And then on the fourth set, like he put the stack right up and I looked at it. I was like, oh, I don't normally do full stack. And he was like, yeah, you're fine. You'll be grand. I was like, oh, really? So I started to move the weight. It's like, holy shit. Like I'd never lifted full stack before. Mark was like, come on, come on. And just when I thought I'd finished, he was like, come on, there's more there. There's more there. Come on, there's more there. And then he started to spot me. He started to like hold, the leg extension part of it and like, not pull it the whole way up, but pull it a little bit to the top and get me to control the negative. And so we did 1 set where it was really hard. And then he was like, right, let's go. And he kind of dandered off to the next machine. And I was like, is that it? Like normally my previous trainer would have said, right, come on, we'll do another one. So I'm like, another one, so you always learn to hold back a little bit whenever you were training because you knew there was another set coming. But Mark only did one really, really hard set. So then we went over to the next machine, which, well, actually he said to me, have you been squatting? And I said, yeah, I've been squatting. He said, right, well, we'll squat then on the Smith machine. So we get on the Smith machine. Mark sticks, 2 10s, 110 on each side. And I said, I can lift heavier than that. He was like, shut up, just get under the bar. Cause I was like, why is he going light? So anyway, I did 10 reps. I was like, oh, okay, yep. The machine was pretty, like the bar on his Smith machine is really heavy. It's about 30 kilos. So 2 10s, I was squatting 50 kilos. I'm like, okay, that's great. So then Mark slid 2 more 10s on, 1 more 10 each side. And I was like, okay, it's getting heavy now. So I did another set. So then, and it was pretty hard. Mark's standing behind me, right? And I'm going up and down and giving it my all. He's standing behind me with his hands, on the bar in case I need a spot. So then Mark slides another 2 10s on each side. It's like 20, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 plus the bar. I was like, that's pretty heavy. It's like 90 kilos. And now I was pretty strong. And so I got under the bar and started to squat. And I was like, holy shit, this is heavy. So went up and down. So then in the last couple of reps, Mark has his hands where he goes, just do 8 reps. I'm like, oh, thank God, just 8 reps. So I'm thinking, right, that must be us. We're done. Did 8 reps, the 8. And it was hard, right? It was harder than I'd ever squatted myself. And then Mark picks up, I think 2 more 5s and slides a 5, or maybe it was 2 more 10s. I can't remember, but slides 2 more weights on the side. And I look at it and I'm like, Mark, I don't think I'm going to be able to lift that. He was like, yes, you can. He said, the last ones went up and down easy. I was like, they weren't easy, I promise you. So you'll be fine. So he goes, right, come on, let's go. So I was like, holy shit. So I get under the bar. unrack the bar. Mark's standing behind me. He's like, right, come on, come on. I have videos of all of these early sets. I used to video everything for Instagram. So I went down, tried to get back up. I was like, oh shit. Like I never felt anything as heavy in my entire life. And I'm thinking, I'm not gonna be able to do this, but I'm pretty game, right? So I just kept going. I was like, well, Mark's there, he's spotting me, he's challenged me. Let's do it. Okay. So I'm never shy away from a challenge. So we got to about rep 6 and I was thinking, I can't do this. I can't do this. And I was like, and Mark was like, keep going. Come on. There's more there. There's more there. So I'm like, boom. I go up rep 7. Oh my God. Oh my God. I actually think I'm going to die at this point. So he goes, come on, keep going, keep going. So I'm down and up again. So this time now, Mark is actually having to properly spot me on the way up. So he goes, 2 more. And I'm like, 2 more? Are you insane? So I go down and the 9th rep, I'm like, like pushing to the top. And Mark's like, come on, one more, one more, one more. This man is a fucking maniac. So I go down, down to the bottom. And then Mark's going, push, push, push. Mark would make a really good midwife. So Mark pushes me to the top, right? And I'm like, boom, and I rack the bar. I'm like, and I'm like heart palpitations, like honestly feel like crying. Like, what the hell was that? And Mark just danders away from the machine. And I'm like, we're not doing another one. And he was like, do you want to do another one? I'm like, no, 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 I don't want to do another one. But again, I was so used to working hard, not that hard in fairness, and then having to do another set. So we walk over to another machine, which is an incline hack squat. Mark goes, oh, this machine's fantastic for building quads. I've never seen this machine in anyone's gym ever. It's not a hack squat, okay? It's not a traditional hack squat. It's called an incline hack squat. So rather than standing with your back 45-degree angles that you do in a hack squat, you're actually sitting, right? You're sitting at a 45-degree angle. And so and if you Google incline hack squat, a video of me doing the incline hack squat is actually the first video that comes up on Google. So go ahead and comes up on YouTube. So go ahead and Google after you've listened to this incline hack squat and you'll see a video of me on the incline hack squat. So we went over to the incline hack squat and Mark sticks a plate on either side. And actually, I don't even think he does. I think I just did the machine, right? And I do the first set of the machine. I'm like, oh my God, my wee legs are toast, like pure toast. And then he puts 2 10s on and I had to do another set. And the second set, I genuinely felt like crying. I was like, I can't do another set of this. This was heavier than I had ever lifted in my entire life. Like I had never worked this intensely. So then Mark goes, right, one more set and puts a 20-kilo plate on either side. Now just FYI, I built up to doing 5 20-kilo plates per side over the years of training with Mark. Over 6 years of training, I went up to 200 kilos on the machine, and the machine weighs 60. So I was doing 260 kilos on that machine in my very peak. So I got on the machine, I did another set, and honestly, I sounded like I was giving birth. I think I managed 10 reps. I can't even remember. I don't honestly remember how many reps it was. I think I stopped counting, went up and down, and I am like screaming in every rep. I'm like, like I felt like I was in the labor ward giving birth again. And I do however many reps it is, maybe 10 reps. We get to the last 2 reps, and I honestly feel like I'm going to die. And I think at one point I shouted, no, Mark. And he was like, keep going. So I go down and Mark's, spotting me in the way back. And he goes, come on, one more, one more. So I go down to the bottom and I push and he's going, push, push, push. And this rep is going up so slowly. It's like, it's like eking its way to the top. And then boom, I lock it in. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God. But once it's over, you're like, oh, it's like giving birth. Once the baby's out, you're like flooded with relief. And that's how I felt. So I walked, and then Mark danders over to the next machine. I'm like, there's more. And he goes, yeah, walking lunges. So anyway, we did 3 sets of walking lunges. And then we did 1 set of lying leg curls to finish, just 5 exercises. And at the end of it, it was like, I always say it's the easiest, hardest training I've ever done. It's hard because you have 1 set where you literally leave your soul on the floor. 1 set where you give it your all, where you literally think you're going to die. And then the rest of them are just warm-ups, right? All the other sets of the exercise are just warm-ups. So we finish off the leg training and I said to Mark, and I walked out of the gym and I really felt like my central nervous system had taken a huge beating. I felt like I had to go home and lie down. I felt like a little sick, a little nauseous, but it was funny. My muscles didn't feel sore. And I think that because I'd been using a lot of metabolic training in the past, which is what I'm going to talk about in a second, I expected my muscles to be sore. My muscles weren't sore at all. My muscles were fatigued and tired, but they weren't sore. So anyway, I went home and he says, "See you tomorrow, train back." I was like, "Fuck, great, can't wait." So this is how the training progressed. I started training with Mark 5 days a week. I woke up the next morning and I honestly thought someone had shot me in the legs several times with a machine gun. I woke up in the middle of the night and I thought, oh my Lord, I cannot walk. Struggled to the toilet, got back into bed, was like, this is insane. The next day, woke up with the worst agonizing pain I have ever experienced in my entire life. I felt like my muscles were on fire. I felt they were so inflamed. I had never felt pain like it in my entire life. I couldn't walk up and down the stairs. I had to go backwards down the stairs because every time I put my foot on the step to go down, it activated my quad, and my quads were so inflamed that every single step felt like torture. Normally, if I'd ever had delayed onset muscle soreness, known as DOMS in the past, it had only lasted maybe a day or two. These DOMs went on and on and on. My muscles were still sore 9 days later. I remember saying to my husband, "Do you think I've damaged muscles in my legs?" And he was laughing. He was like, "No, Kim, you haven't damaged muscles in your legs." I said, "I actually think I've caused permanent, maybe nerve damage or something." He said, "No, you really haven't. You're fine. It's just muscle soreness." 11 days those DOMs lasted for. 11 days. I got out of the car one day and went to walk across the car park and my legs buckled underneath me. They actually just buckled. I went down. I fell in the middle of the car park. And it wasn't even like there was pain. They just buckled. Like it was almost like my central nervous system just shot itself. So I continued to train like this with Mark. Now, I never had the same muscle soreness again. That first time was the sorest, right? Because once you get used to training this way, your body adapts. Never had the same soreness again. But I've continued to train this way with Mark for the next, 6 years really. And, but in the first year of training with Mark, I my legs doubled in size. And I mean doubled. I went to train with him in April, at the end of April in 2018. And in 2000, I did my next show in April 2019. But I started taking progress pictures in about, well, I was taking pictures every week, but I took a picture in February, which was, from May until, let's say May until February. So however many months that was, 10 months or something. Took a picture from May to February of my quads and put them side by side. And it was astonishing how much my quads had grown. They had doubled in size in 10 months with no anabolic steroids. And I remember saying to Mark, like, "Do you think I should take some steroids? Like, I'm willing to take some steroids here." He was like, "What do you need steroids for?" And I said, "Well, just, if I want my muscles to grow faster." He said, "You don't need any of that shite, Kim." He said, "Food is nature's natural anabolic. All you need is high intensity training and good food, and your legs will grow." And my legs doubled in size. So, what was different to that kind of training that I had been doing before? Well, the training that Mark taught me, which is high intensity training, which is still, in my opinion, well, science backed opinion, the fastest way to build muscle. It's the fastest way for you to grow and build muscle. High intensity training works on the principle of stimulus adaptation. So, what does that mean in layman's terms? If your muscles will adapt to stimulus, which means that they will adapt to whatever stimulation you're placing on them. So if you have enough muscles in your legs, let's just say to isolate it, to squat 50 kilos for 10 reps. If you squat 50 kilos for 10 reps, even if it's hard, even if in the last rep you're struggling to go from the bottom to the top, if you stop when you struggle, your muscle will not grow any more muscle. Struggle does not equate muscle growth. If it's hard, that doesn't equate muscle growth. Your muscles only grow when you force them to do more than they're currently capable of doing. So, I had not been training that way. I had been stopping when it got hard. If the training program I was doing said 4 sets of 10 to 12 reps, then I was doing 4 sets of 10 to 12 reps and I was stopping at 12 reps. So I was choosing a weight that was pretty hard at 10 reps. I thought getting to the 10 reps or the 12 reps was the goal. I did not know about training to failure. So, training to failure and training beyond failure, which is the principle of high intensity training, means that you go yourself to whatever limit you can go to with the highest weight you can go. And then once you have reached the point where you are failing on the positive part of the rep, that's when most people stop. But high intensity training makes you go beyond failure on the positive part of the rep to failure on the negative part of the rep and then to total failure. So what does this mean? Well, let's say you were doing a bench press, okay? So let's say you're pressing the bar up and down. So if you say you load 50 kilos on the bar, so you're benching, you're like 1, 2, 3, and then you're like, ooh, 4, that was hard. Ooh, 5, 6. Do I have one more? Lower it. Your arms start to wobble. 7. Okay. Most people stop there. They're like, they know, couldn't get another rep. Okay. If I lower that bar down, I'm not going to be able to push the bar all the way to the top again. So if people don't have a spotter, they usually stop there. They rack the bar. Your muscles will not grow if you do that because you got a 50-kilo bar from the bottom to the top in the positive part of the rep. Where your muscles will grow, if you have a spotter, and there's two ways to do this. If you have a spotter, your muscles will grow. If the spotter then gently holds the bar, you lower it with control, and then you push it back up in the 8th rep, and you will reach a sticking point where you can't push through that. If the spotter gives you a tiny little lift through that sticking point, and you push it all the way to the top, then you got an 8th rep. You did most of it by yourself. You did 80% of it by yourself. So you're wringing all the juice out of the muscle. So let's say then you go down with control, right? And you struggle on the 9th rep, right? Now it's really fucking hard. So maybe the spotter gives you 40% of a lift on the 9th rep, right? You still were using your muscle fibers. There were still muscle fibers that hadn't been activated. And so, because you were still able to push it to the top. Now, let's say then you lower with control and you really push and you reach a sticking point where you're like, oh my God. And the spotter has to take maybe 50 to 60% of the bar and they lift that bar up. Okay. You still haven't failed. You have one more rep in you. Do you know why? Because you still have the lowering portion of your muscles. So when you're lowering your arms back down to your chest again, your chest muscles are still working. So you haven't actively recruited all of the muscle fibers. So if you can lower with control and you don't feel like your arms are going to flop, and your spotter can then give you a lift, a push to the top. Now, they're not actually lifting the bar the whole way. You're still pushing it up. So once you reach that point on the 10th rep, mostly when I get to the 10th rep, on that point, I usually say to my spotter, I'm like, I'm not getting another one. So if you can't lower your arms with control, if you think if I bring this down here, the bar is going to go, ooh, like I'm going to lose control of the bar in the negative, then you've truly failed. But if you can still lower with control, then you still have some juice to push it up to the top. It's only when you feel that you're going to fail on the negative that you've actually truly failed. And then you rack the bar. And so this is such a good way to build muscle fast, to push beyond failure if you have a spotter, because you're forcing your muscles to recruit every single muscle fiber that they can in order to lift that load. And the how muscle is built is in high intensity training, in mechanical stress, is the muscle fibers rip apart. So you put them under so much strain that they literally ping, 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 ping. Like imagine putting something really heavy in a straw basket. Imagine putting bricks. You're carrying a straw basket and you put a lot of bricks in the straw basket. Well, what's going to happen, right? You ever seen a straw basket? Like it has lots of little straw fibers woven together. So in a woven basket, let's say. So those fibers are going to be under strain, right? They're going to, or like a rope. Have you ever seen in a movie like a rope breaks and you see the rope fiber start to tick, 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 start to break from the outside, and then they go like ping, 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 and then boom, the rope breaks. That's kind of what happens with your muscle fibers. Your muscle fibers rip apart and break, and that's what causes the growth. And then they build back with scar tissue. So you have to try and recruit as many muscle fibers as you possibly can and then have them break apart in order for your body to build back more. The more muscle fibers you break and rip apart, the faster your muscle will grow. But if you don't break the muscle fibers apart, if you stop when it gets hard, then you're not building any muscle whatsoever. That's why people go to the gym for years and years and years and they look exactly the same as they did a year ago because they're not actually pushing their body beyond failure. Now, if you don't have a spotter, how do you replicate this by yourself? by doing what's called drop sets. So drop sets are a really good way to activate the muscle tissue. So what you would do is you would push until, so let's say you're feeling on the seventh rep. Okay, so the seventh rep on a bench press, you go down and you're like, you're pushing it all the way to the top, or even on a squat, right? You go down and you go all the way up and you think, do I have one more? And you think, yeah, I have one more to straighten. So you squat down and you push up and you're like, oh, and your form starts to go and your knees start to wobble a bit and your back starts to wobble. And you think, okay, if I go down again, I'm not getting back up. What do? You rack the bar quickly. You take some weight off the side of the bar, maybe like 10 kilos off. And then you get under the bar as fast as possible and you go again and you go again until you reach that point where you don't think you can get up again. And then you do it again. You quickly drop a few more kilos off the bar, you get back under it, and you see, do you have one more or two more reps? That's pushing your body beyond failure. That's going to the point where you think, oh no, if I go down here, I am not getting back up again. So that's how you force your muscles to grow, because you're asking them to adapt to a greater stimulus. That's what muscle adaptation means. There's a lot of terms thrown around in bodybuilding and people don't really know what they mean, but that's what it means to stimulate the muscle. That's what it means to progressively overload the muscle. You overload it with more weight, which causes it to adapt to the new weight, to build more muscle to adapt to the weight. So that is the fastest way to grow muscle, and that is the way that I built muscle for many, many years with Mark Getty. It's called mechanical stress. Mechanical stress is putting the muscle under as much strain as possible. In You take it through a full stretch and a full squeeze. So like a full squat, ass to grass, that's full stretch, and then push it up to the top, full squeeze, with as heavy a load as you can. That is mechanical stress. That is the way that I trained for 6 years. But here's what happened. I reached a point where I'd kind of maxed out my genetic potential. So I'd maxed out the top weights in what I was lifting. I was doing a lat pull down with 100 kilos, right, which is 220 pounds. So I'm doing a lat pull down on a machine with 220 pounds. I'm on the incline hack squat doing 260 kilo incline hacks for like 8 to 10 reps. Like it's it's bone crushing, right? For a woman my size. I'm 5'7.5". I weigh 150 pounds. And like that is a serious amount of weight. That's almost double my body weight. Okay. Though actually it's far more than double my body weight. I weigh 67 kilos and I'm squatting 260 kilos. So it's like triple my body weight. So that's the fastest way to get the muscle to grow, is mechanical stress. But what started happening was I reached the top of my potential, lost my train of thought there for a second. I reached the top of my potential, and adding more load or adding another rep or adding, or shortening the rest time, which are all ways that you can make the muscle adapt, that you can put more strain on them. When you've reached the top of the weight that you can lift, you can put more strain on your muscles by adding one more rep or by shortening your rest period. Those are other ways that you can place more strain on the muscle to make it grow. But I'd reached a point in perimenopause in kind of I guess my early to mid 40s, where everything started to hurt. It just started to hurt. My body became more inflamed. I didn't know it was inflammation. I didn't know it was perimenopause, but I just knew now that I was coming away from the gym with pain in my left hip. I thought my gluteal tendinopathy was caused by training. So the exercises that I'd always done and done successfully now started to really hurt my body, and I couldn't figure out why. But I've realized now that I had gluteal tendinopathy caused by menopause. And then I started to get like a really niggly trap, right? A really niggly trap muscle in my upper body, and rows and different things were aggravating it. I was getting like this shooting pain, and I thought I was maybe sleeping weirdly, or I wasn't sleeping well on my neck. But I realized that actually the training that I was doing, because it was so intense, really started hurting my body. And I genuinely started dreading going to the gym, because I didn't want to go back in weights. And I did drop down in weights actually quite a bit. And I focused on going slower and more controlled reps and this kind of stuff. But it honestly just felt like I was cheating. I I I kept thinking, I can lift more than this. I can do more than this. Like, I'm not lifting at the top of my potential here. And I felt like I was cheating myself, and I just stopped enjoying it. I didn't recover as well. My body hurt, my muscles hurt, my joints hurt. I was under a lot of stress with running the business, and I just stopped enjoying training. Um The second way that you can build muscle is through metabolic stress. And that is the type of training that I switched to. So here's what happened. I One day I kept being very flaky with the gym. I kept like looking for excuses to not go to the gym. I hated myself for it because I am a very disciplined person and I show up and I do the work. But I was under a lot of mental stress in work. I was under a lot of emotional stress with stuff going on in the family. And I just didn't have the mental capacity that it took to go and lift those heavy weights every day in the gym. And but I didn't want to stop training. And so I was in the office here one day in the studio where I'm recording this podcast, which also doubles as my weights studio, my recording studio. So I'm here in the studio, and I said to Laura, my director of training, I was like, Laura, do you know what? I'm going to do a dumbbell workout because I hadn't trained, I think, in a couple of days, and I had dumbbells here in the office. I thought I'm going to do a dumbbell workout. So I thought I'm going to make up a dumbbell workout that's pretty similar to a workout that I do in the gym, but I'm going to do it with only dumbbells. Because, of course, I know how to do all the exercises with dumbbells. If I ever train and go into hotels and things, I know how to replicate my workouts with dumbbells. And I thought, I'm going to do a dumbbell workout. I didn't have a huge range of dumbbells. I actually only had reasonably light ones. So I thought, well, I can't, go really heavy. I can't do like 3 sets or 4 sets of heavy reps because I don't have the dumbbells here in the studio to go increase weight every set. So I thought I'll work on the concept of metabolic stress, which I was always very like, metabolic stress, like, it's pure shite. It does work. Metabolic stress does work, but it's just not as effective as mechanical stress. And my whole thing that I always preached was, if you want the, fast results, then you have to do what works, right? If you don't want the results, don't complain about results you didn't get from the work you didn't do, kind of thing. But I thought I'm just going to do a workout. My goal was to feel good. That's all it was. It wasn't to build more muscle. I thought at this stage, I just want to try and maintain what I've got. I want to feel good. I want to feel like I've trained. So I sat down, I worked out a workout. It was a chest and triceps, or upper body. I think chest, biceps and triceps. I think I did. I can't remember what it was. And I worked, instead of working on mechanical stress, because I didn't have the weights, I worked on metabolic stress. So I set a timer to go for 60 seconds. So I would do a 60-second workout and then rest for 30 seconds and then go again. Because part of the concept of metabolic stress is to put a lot of volume on the muscle. So metabolic stress works differently than mechanical stress. You don't rip apart the muscle fibers in metabolic stress. You actually infuse, or you pump lactic acid. So your muscles pump lactic acid into the muscles, and you have metabolites in the muscles which start to shiver and shake whenever you put them under a lot of stress, which causes muscle damage. The muscle damage it causes is inferior to the muscle damage caused by mechanical stress, but it is still muscle damage. So I started to do 60-second sets with 30 seconds of rest with light dumbbells. And I was sweating. My muscles were burning. I was trembling. I was doing lunges with like 10-kilo dumbbells in each hand, and my quads were on fire. Like, I was really focusing on good form. I was really focusing on depth because I didn't have the heavy dumbbells, and my muscles were on fire. I was completely humbled by that workout. And I thought, you know what? This is actually good. I actually, in inverted commas, enjoyed it. It was only 30 minutes long, but I couldn't have gone for any longer than 30 minutes because every single muscle I'd been using had been completely burnt out. And the next day, I was so sore. Why was I sore? Because I was using all of the supporting muscles that I don't normally use when I train with machines to support the dumbbells. And I'd used my muscles in a way that they had never been used before. And honestly, I was hooked. I was actually hooked. The next day, I did a leg workout. I worked loads on Romanian deadlifts, on thrusts, on lunges, Bulgarian split squats. And I started to train with dumbbells. And I not only, it was horrible while I was doing it. I do not enjoy training with the dumbbells because it is so hard on your cardiovascular system. Because you've only got short rest periods, you are breathing heavily. It's hard on your cardiovascular system, but also it's very, very hard. Lunges burn like a bitch. Like, they are horrible. I hate lunges. I hate them at the best of time, but they are one of the most effective quad building exercises. And so I started doing these workouts, but they were like 30 minutes long. I didn't have to drive 30 minutes to the gym and 30 minutes back again. Now, I have a fully equipped gym at home, right, with all of the best equipment. But because I was training with a spotter, I was driving 30 minutes to the gym, training for an hour, and 30 minutes back. So going to the gym was taking 2 hours out of my day, which for me, as a very busy person in the middle of the day, was a huge amount of time. The dumbbell workouts I could do here in the studio, I could record them so I could give out it as free content to other people. And they only took 30 minutes, maybe 35 or 40 minutes, depending on how many exercise I was doing, but like 35 or 40 minutes. And but here's what started to happen, right? My Because I was burning fat doing the dumbbell workouts, because they were a cardiovascular workout as well as a strength training workout, my body started to drop fat like a mofo. Like, the amount of body fat I started to drop was insane. But also, it really sparked an excitement in me because I was able to use these dumbbells in so many innovative ways. I was coming up with all kinds of ways to hold them, all kinds of presses, all different types of rear delts, and different ways to work the different muscles. I was googling online, I was looking on YouTube for inspiration, I was looking at these big bodybuilders who use a lot of dumbbells and getting inspiration for different exercises. And I just loved playing around with these workouts. But the best part of the workouts was, because you're not ripping apart the muscle fibers, I didn't have a lot of DOMs the next day, but also my body was recovering so fast. I wasn't waking up in the morning destroyed. Quite often, during the week, I didn't sleep well during the week because my central nervous system had taken such a beating from the heavy workouts, and my muscles, especially after leg day, you get almost like tired legs or restless legs when you're sleeping, and my muscles just, my body wasn't recovering in the same way that it used to. I didn't have any of that from the dumbbell workouts. And so, because I was only using metabolic stress and the muscle recovered faster, I was actually able to train more. So, I was able to train 5 or 6 days a week. I was able to train the same muscle group many times. And that's what I realized I needed to do with metabolic stress. So, let's pause there for a second. Metabolic stress, because it doesn't cause a lot of massive muscle fiber damage, it means you can and should train the muscles more often. So my workout program is now legs on a Monday, upper body on a Tuesday, glutes on a Wednesday, which has usually has some kind of lunges and stuff in it, so some more leg work. Then um upper body again on a Thursday, and then full body on a Friday, or sometimes full body on a Thursday and then upper body on a Friday. So I train 5 days a week, and I can hit rear delts several times a week. I can hit back and need to hit back several times a week. It's harder to build your back with dumbbells, but not impossible. I can hit legs 3 times a week. I can do lunges 3 times a week. I can do glutes in different capacities 3 times a week. I can hit the different muscle groups 3 times a week because my muscles are my muscles are recovering so much faster than they used to. And so that's the difference in the principle of metabolic stress and mechanical stress. When you're using the concept of metabolic stress, which is more volume and less load, you can and actually should work harder. You need to do more volume in order to get the same results. So I started teaching this to my menopausal members. I started, releasing these on YouTube, releasing these workouts in my Sculpted Menopause app, which you can get a 7-day free trial of. If you are in menopause and want to, try the workouts, go to the sculptedmenopause.com, sign up for a 7-day free trial. So I started releasing all these workouts in the Sculpted Menopause app and on YouTube, and my members started to do them, and they started to report the same things that I had reported. They found that their recovery was better, their sleep was better. They found they were burning more fat as well as building muscle doing these workouts. They were less time consuming. They could do them at home. And they were stunned by how hard they were, because a lot of my members have trained with me in the gym for years, but changing their workouts to these kinds of workouts really made a massive difference to them. The other thing about metabolic stress is, I've completely forgotten what I was going to say now. Something about my members and metabolic stress. I hate it whenever you lose your train of thought. Um, but yeah, so anyway, I'll remember, it'll come back to me. But that's the difference between mechanical stress and metabolic stress. Mechanical stress, full range of motion, full squeeze, full stretch, maximum ripping of muscle fibers. You can only really train once a week, each muscle group once a week when you're doing it correctly. Metabolic stress, you can and should train the muscle groups more. Actually, I remembered what I was going to say. Here's one of the things, though, that I realized about my members. I realized that I was teaching the concept of high intensity training and training to failure to my members. And so we were giving them gym programs in our shred challenges. We were giving them gym programs and then workouts that were like low intensity, steady state cardio workouts, just like walking on a treadmill or, on a Stairmaster, stuff like that. But I realized that because my members were not training, right, with someone like Mark Eddy, a lot of them are training by themselves. They were doing metabolic stress training in the gym, but no, they were doing metabolic stress exercises in a mechanical stress mode, which is not effective. So, what do I mean by this? They weren't lifting heavy. They weren't lifting heavy. They were lifting the weights that they would be lifting doing metabolic stress style training, expecting to get the same results using mechanical stress. So the point of mechanical stress is you have to lift way beyond what you think you can lift. You have to go super heavy in order to get the results in 3 sets or 4 sets. If you're going into the gym and lifting 10-pound dumbbells, right? And you're going, oh, Kim says 4 sets of military presses, 10 reps. And you're like, 1, 2, 3, 4. Even if you go a little bit heavier and it's a little bit hard, you're not actually building any muscle. So I realized that because it's so hard for women to, and not even women, men, a lot of people don't want to train the way it's necessary to train to get the returns from high intensity training. They don't want to, and they're not capable of it. They're not capable of it mentally, emotionally, or physically. So I was actually doing them a disservice by trying to teach them this because many of them just weren't willing or able to go there. So by switching the training in my programs to dumbbell training, my women are getting better results. My members are getting far better results because they're doing 3 sets of, or 4 sets or whatever, of 60 seconds with a 30-second rest, and they're actually, for once in their life, actually reaching failure, proper, true muscle failure. Because sometimes I'm doing my rear delt flies, right? And I actually am like, oh my God, I look at the clock and I'm like, there's 20 seconds left and I can't move my arms anymore. Like my arms are burning, my rear delts are burning. Like I am like, oh, so I have to pause for a second and be like, and then I go again. And I'm like 3 more reps and I'm like, oh my God, they're burning. I'm like, oh my God, I have to stop. And I'm still got 10 more seconds. So because you're focusing on the timer with these workouts that I've been teaching, you push beyond what you're currently capable of doing and you push way into failure. And it makes such a massive difference. And that's why women following these workouts are now getting better results because my workouts are hard, but I've been able to transfer the hard that I used to apply in the gym to the hard that I now apply to dumbbells. Because let me tell you, if I could host a training session in the gym every day for thousands of women and teach them how to train, if I could actually physically train them myself, then they would get far better results. But I couldn't be in the gym with them. And they were like, oh, yeah, I lifted so heavy. And I'm like, okay, that's really not heavy at all. And I look at them doing videos, and their videos, sometimes they post, I'm like, oh, I know that she could have gone heavier there, but they just don't have the confidence to go heavy. You're afraid of hurting yourself. I get it. Like, there's no judgment in what I'm saying. But by switching the way that I teach my members over to metabolic style training and having them train with me, they're watching me train. And they're like, oh my God, Kim's doing lunges with like 22.5 kilos in each hand or 25 kilos in each hand, which is 25 kilos is 50, 60 pounds. She's like, she has 60 pounds in each hand and she's doing her lunges. And I have like 10 pounds in each hand. So it gives them something to aspire to and work up to and see what is possible because they're watching me do these sets with these heavy weights and they know that they need to and can work harder. Whereas just teaching them on paper and not having them see day in, day in, day out, the weights that I was lifting, how I was shifting the weights, how I was moving the weights, talking about how to build the muscle, no one was getting access to that. Whereas now, through training with me, all the members are getting access to this type of training. I'm able to coach them through because I'm doing it myself and I can feel it in my own body. I'm able to say, I sometimes notice my shoulders are coming up. So I'll say, are you wearing your shoulders as earrings? Place your shoulders back down, lift your chest, suck up on your pelvic floor. I'm like, push your hips back, break at the hips, keep the knees soft, plug the arm bone back up into the socket. So I'm constantly giving these cues, which is making them keep their form tight It's keeping their mind focused. I give them these mindset strategies to slow down the rep, to make it a moving meditation, to keep going, it's like I'm coaching them through those last burning reps when they would normally have given up themselves if they were by themselves in the gym, because it takes a lot of discipline to go to failure yourself. They're now able to go to failure with me because I'm doing it with them and pushing them on. And so because of this, the success that the members have been seeing in the last 3 months since I only started training, I guess, about 3 months ago. The success, or 4 months ago maybe, the success the members have been seeing is truly astonishing. Their bodies are transforming. Some of them they look completely different. They're sculpting muscles, that they never had before. It's truly astonishing. So what are the upsides and what are the downsides? Let me just finish off with this. So for me, the downsides of training this way are I can't train my back as hard. I'm losing muscle in my back. The upside of that is I can now fit into all my really expensive jackets, which is wonderful. Downside is I'm losing some of my quad muscles. Upside is that I can fit in much better into regular pants, right? I used to be able to have to buy like everything with a stretch because I couldn't fit my quads into it. But upside, my glutes are massive because I'm able to train glutes so much and so intensely using these kinds of workouts. My glutes have doubled in size, which is amazing because who does not want really gorgeous glutes? The other thing that I've decided to intentionally do is change my body shape, because what I've realized is I'm a 46-year-old woman, and women don't want to look like a bodybuilder. They want to have defined muscles. They want to have nice shoulders, nice, biceps, strong, solid glutes, shapely leg muscles. But women in general don't want to look like a big, muscly bodybuilder. So I've decided to change my body shape to appeal more to women who want to look like me. So it's been a conscious decision that I've made, and I'm actually enjoying for once watching my body change because I don't feel like I'm working any less hard. But I am working less hard. My recovery is better. I have more time for my kids. I have more time for my life. I have less emotional stress, and training this way just suits me. It suits me so much better. So what I didn't there was so much I wanted to talk about in this podcast that I just got into my stories and I didn't talk about it. I wanted to talk a lot about GLPs and how that has been helping my recovery and inflammation. But I will talk about that in another podcast. So the next podcast I do will be all about what I've learned about GLP-1s and inflammation. I've been taking microdosing Ozempic for inflammation. Not only has my digestion completely changed, I can eat everything now. I can eat all green cruciferous vegetables, beans, lentils. I don't react to anything anymore. No more bloating, no more gas. It's transformed my digestion. It's also transformed my sleep. I go to bed at night, 10 o'clock, and I sleep through till 6 in the morning. 8 hours of solid sleep. I don't get up to pee. I don't wake up in the middle of the night. Ozempic has completely transformed that. It's also completely transformed my pain. I have no more shoulder pain, no more trap pain, no more hip pain. So GLP-1s are incredible for lowering inflammation. I highly recommend that you open your mind to them. They're not for weight loss on a microdose. I haven't lost any weight in the GLP-1s, but what has kept the weight off me is the dumbbell training. But also what it does do is it dampens your cravings. So I eat 5 meals a day, but I don't snack in between. I don't have the same urge to drink alcohol that I used to. So it really has dampened my cravings, which has enabled me to keep my body super lean, which is what I like, which is the look that I'm going for. So I am actually setting up an affiliate at the minute. I found a company in America who microdose GLPs. It's very hard to get them off label, but if you are interested in trying tirzepatide or Ozempic or a microdose of a GLP-1, watch this space, because I have set up a discount, an affiliate link with a company. I'm going to affiliate with a company in America, who microdose. They're a massive company, very reputable. They have their own labs. They have doctors. They're the best that I have found. So I'm going to partner with them, and I'm going to be able to offer you in America a microdosing option for GLP-1s if this is something you want to explore. If you're interested in my journey with Ozempic or GLP-1s and peptides, definitely go and watch other episodes of the podcast on my YouTube channel, because there's so much on there, or on Podbean, and you can dive into all of the data as to how I started, how it's going, and everything in between. But I'm going to do another podcast, because there's been quite a lot of things that have happened recently, like realizations that I've had about the GLPs that I want to share with you, because I know a lot of you are super interested in it. And yes, it is phenomenal that you actually lose you not lose a little bit of body fat, it dampens your cravings. So taking the GLP-1s, even in a microdose, really does dampen your cravings. It doesn't crush your appetite. You eat normally, but it stops you from craving crisps and chocolate and alcohol and all those things that are the things that actually put on the calories. So huge, huge advocator for GLP-1s. And I'm going to have a link for you guys to purchase hopefully within the next week or so. How am I going to finish up here? Whether you train in the gym, if you train in the gym and you train to mechanical stress, you must go to positive muscle failure and beyond. You must utilize drop sets. You must utilize pause sets where you basically you do as many reps as you can, then you pause, and then you go again for as many reps as you can, and then you pause, and then you go again. You have to go beyond failure. If you're in the gym and you're not training to positive muscle failure, then you are doing yourself a disservice. Your muscles will not grow. If you're there, you may as well do what it takes to get the best results. If you are like me and the gym is not your happy place anymore, if your body is hurting, if your body is inflamed, if you're not enjoying it anymore, I would consider trying some dumbbell workouts. Go to, well, you're on YouTube watching this, so go to my YouTube channel, Be Sculpted, and look up the dumbbell workouts. I actually just uploaded a whole new dumbbell challenge there yesterday, a 5-day challenge. The full challenges are always in the Sculpted Menopause app, but I always upload the first 5 days of the challenge to YouTube. So there's 5 days of a brand new challenge on there. There's loads of different challenges on there. You can literally work your way through them, and you will have like an 8-week program if you just work through the different 5 days that are on there. Try some of my workouts. I think you will be pleasantly surprised and humbled by how hard they are and how much your body changes. So just to finish up, please do go over and follow me on TikTok and Instagram and TikTok at The Sculpted Vegan. I'm moving away a lot from Instagram because it's just full of trolls and haters who keep reporting my content. I'm doing a lot more on TikTok. I'm going live on TikTok almost every single morning. Every weekday morning, I've been going live on TikTok, doing cooking demonstrations, doing workout demonstrations. I'm going to be doing so much live stuff on TikTok moving forward because it really is the future. And I want you guys to see behind the scenes of what it is that I'm doing so you can ask questions, build community, and get help with your own journey. I'm making myself super available to help for free just because I really want you guys to succeed and sculpt the best bodies possible and live your best pain-free, long and healthy life. That's always my goal. So I see there's been quite a few people on here live. Thank you so much for watching. It's the first time I've ever recorded this live. I'm going to be recording all the podcasts live from now on because why not? And then it's already there on YouTube, which is perfect. But thank you so much for watching if you're live on YouTube. Thank you so much for listening. If you're listening on Podbean or Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen, I truly appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. I don't take it lightly that you follow me and you listen to what I say, and I hope that you find the information useful. So have an awesome rest of the day wherever you are in the world. This is Kim Constable sending you a huge, big kiss and big hug, and I will see you next time for another episode of the Kim Constable podcast. Have an awesome rest of your day, and bye for now.